Welcome to Talk Tensors, the show where we take these deep dives into all the fascinating research going on in machine learning. Today, we're going to be looking at a paper with a challenge that feels like it's ripped straight out of some kind of futuristic cityscape.
Right.
It's called Safe Swarm, and the full title is Safe Swarm, Decentralized Safe RL for the Swarm of Drones Landing in Dense Crowds. So, you can imagine swarms of drones like in a bustling city, delivering packages maybe, or responding to emergencies and like weaving through crowds without running into anybody.
Yeah, that's the goal.
That's the vision they lay out in this paper.
And I think this paper is really important because it tackles like the big elephant in the room when it comes to autonomous drones. Right. Safety, especially in crowded places.
Yeah, for sure.
Like imagine if drones just started falling out of the sky in the middle of rush hour.
Yeah. No thanks.
Total chaos, right? So this research is really trying to find a solution to make sure we can actually have drones in our lives in a safe and reliable way.
Okay, so let's dig into Safe Swarm then and try to understand how they want to make this vision a reality.
Yeah.
What's the core innovation that we should be focusing on?
So the core of it is this idea of safe reinforcement learning. It's sort of like when you're teaching a dog a new trick.
Okay, I'm following.
You give them treats for the good stuff and kind of discourage the bad stuff. So in SafeRL, the algorithm is learning by trying and failing, but there's like special rules so it doesn't do something dangerous while it's learning.
Oh, that makes sense.
So in the case of drones, this means like avoiding crashing into things, especially people, while it's figuring things out.
Okay, so like learning on the job, but with some safety protocols built right in.
Exactly.
Which, definitely makes me feel a bit better about having swarms of these things flying around over our heads.
Right. You don't want them just like learning by crashing into everything.
Exactly.
So if we look back past attempts at coordinating swarms, they often tried to use model predictive control, or MPC for short. Yeah, and basically MPC tries to guess where the drones and the obstacles are going to move next based on some model that you program in.
Okay.
But MPC kind of falls apart when things are constantly changing, like a crowded street.
Yeah. Good luck predicting where every single person is going to go next.
It's a nightmare, right? It's like trying to predict which way a leaf's going to blow in the wind.
Right. Total chaos.
And some other approaches, they would train these drones in like very specific environments. But then they couldn't adapt when they went somewhere new or unexpected, Safe Swarm is trying to get around these limitations by combining SafeRL with a decentralized approach.
Okay, decentralized. So like each drone is thinking for itself then.
Yeah, that's the idea. Instead of having one brain making decisions for the whole swarm, each drone kind of does its own thing, reacting to its local surroundings and what the other drones near it are doing.
So sort of like a flock of birds or a school of fish,
Yeah.
Each one doing its own thing, but contributing to this like group intelligence?
Perfect analogy, yeah. And that's a big part of why this system could be so robust and scalable.
I can see that.
Even if one drone has a problem, the rest can keep going. They don't need to wait for instructions from a central command.
Makes sense. So how'd they actually test this Safe Swarm thing out? Did they like set loose a bunch of drones in Times Square or something?
Not quite Times Square. They did tests in a real indoor environment using these crazy fly 2.1 mini quadrotors.
Oh, okay.
They're these tiny drones, perfect for testing because they're lightweight, agile, and relatively safe to fly inside.
So like the guinea pigs of the drone world.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. But they also ran a ton of simulations to test the algorithm in a whole bunch of different scenarios before letting them loose on real drones.
Yeah, you got to do that first, right? Like make sure your code works before you got swarms of drones flying around.
Yeah, you don't want to be debugging mid-flight.
For sure. But speaking of those real-world tests, how'd Safe Swarm actually do?
So they focused on one scenario, trying to land a bunch of drones on a landing pad safely, even though there's obstacles in the way. And they got some pretty impressive results, especially given how hard this problem is. This is where the safe part of SafeRL really pays off.
Yeah, all right, I'm ready. Hit me with the numbers.
In the simulations, Safe Swarm got a 95% landing accuracy, meaning like 95 out of 100 drones landed right where they were supposed to.
Okay, that's really good, especially when you think about how hard it is to navigate a swarm in a crowded space.
Exactly.
And so then what about the real-world tests with those crazy fly drones? How did those go?
Even better, they got a mean landing error of just 2.25 centimeters, like less than an inch.
Wow. That's some seriously precise landing. So Safe Swarm is not just safe then, it's also super accurate.
You got it. And they even compared SafeSwarm to another system called Marlander, which also uses reinforcement learning to land drones.
Oh, interesting. So how'd Safe Swarm stack up?
They tested both systems with static and dynamic landing platforms, like imagine a landing pad that's moving around. SafeSwarm did better in both cases.
So it's winning in terms of accuracy, it's winning in terms of safety.
Yeah. Although it did take a bit longer.
Interesting. But I imagine going from those nice, clean simulations to the real world, that's got to come with its own challenges, right?
Oh, for sure. Like one of the biggest hurdles in robotics and AI is bridging that gap between the simulation and the real world.
Right, like things can work perfectly in the simulation and then completely fall apart when you take it into the real world.
Exactly. Things in the real world are messy and unpredictable. It's like trying to learn to drive in a video game versus dealing with actual rush hour traffic.
Right, totally different ballgame.
And the SafeSwarm researchers, they knew this was going to be a problem, so they used something called domain randomization during their training.
Okay, what is that?
It's basically like they're throwing a bunch of different variations and uncertainties into the simulation to make the algorithm more adaptable. So when it gets out into the real world, it's not completely thrown off by the unexpected.
Oh, that's smart. Like giving the algorithm a crash course in how to deal with all the craziness of reality.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the key takeaways from this research, right? It's not enough to just build algorithms that work perfectly in some kind of ideal world. You got to build systems that can handle the unpredictability of the real world.
Yeah, for sure. Robustness, adaptability, these are crucial things.
Absolutely. You need systems that can roll with the punches, adapt to the chaos.
Yeah, exactly. Systems that don't just break down the moment something unexpected happens.
Exactly. And that's what SafeSwarm is trying to do. And, it's doing a pretty good job of it so far.
So Safe Swarm looks pretty good in the lab, and simulations and stuff. But what about like the real world? What are the applications for this kind of tech out there in the real world?
Well, the potential applications are massive, right? I mean, you can picture a future with swarms of drones flying around over cities, delivering packages, inspecting things like bridges or power lines, responding to like 911 calls, even doing surveillance, all in a crowded city.
Yeah, it sounds like sci-fi, but research like this is making it feel more and more real.
Yeah, and one area where SafeSwarm could really make a difference is package delivery.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Think about drones delivering stuff right to your door, even in cities where it's a pain to deliver things on the ground because of traffic and all the people.
Yeah, that would be huge, for sure. For e-commerce and
Yeah.
stuff. No more waiting forever for packages, no more traffic jams.
Exactly. And what about stuff like search and rescue or disaster response?
Yeah, that's got to be another area where this could be really valuable.
Totally. Imagine a swarm of these drones going into a disaster zone, after an earthquake or something.
Yeah.
They could fly over all the rubble and find survivors, deliver supplies, even check out the damage.
Yeah, that could save so many lives, especially in those situations where every second counts. Being able to send in a swarm of these things that can like coordinate and adapt to a crazy environment like that could change everything. But there's got to be challenges, right? Implementing this kind of technology in the real world.
Oh, absolutely. One of the biggest challenges is figuring out how to deal with stuff that's moving.
Yeah, right. Like people aren't just going to stand still while these drones fly around.
Right. People are walking around, they're running, driving, riding bikes.
Yeah, it's like this unpredictable dance of motion, right?
Exactly. And trying to account for all that movement is super complex. You need algorithms that can track how all these obstacles are moving, but you also need models that can predict where they're going to go next.
So it's not enough to just know where people are right now. You got to know where they're going, like their intention.
Exactly.
Yeah, that sounds really tough to do.
Oh, it definitely is. But luckily, there's a lot of really smart people working on this problem in AI and robotics. There's some promising research in things like predicting human movement, modeling how crowds behave, and that kind of stuff. And all that could be used to make systems like SafeSwarm even better at handling the real world.
So you're saying that maybe in the future, Safe Swarm won't just be about avoiding people, but actually understanding how they're going to move, kind of anticipating their behavior.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a really cool idea. But I guess that also brings up a whole bunch of ethical questions too, right?
Oh, for sure, for sure. Like anytime you're talking about influencing how people behave, you got to be super careful. It's got to be transparent. People got to know what's going on, and they should be able to opt out if they want to.
Yeah, any system like this needs to be developed very carefully and ethically.
Absolutely. But if we do it right, the benefits could be amazing.
Yeah, imagine large events like concerts or protests or something where these drones could help people get out safely, prevent stampedes.
Right. Or in a city, they could help with traffic flow, make things safer and more efficient.
Yeah. Okay, so let's kind of zoom out a bit now and talk about the bigger picture. Where does this research fit into, like the overall landscape of AI and robotics?
So I think Safe Swarm is really pushing the limits of what we can do with safe reinforcement learning and, these decentralized multi-agent systems.
Okay.
It's showing us that we can build algorithms that let robots learn and adapt in super complex environments, all while keeping safety as a top priority.
Right. But this isn't just about drones, is it?
hmm
I mean, these same principles could be used for other types of robots, too.
Oh, absolutely. Imagine self-driving cars in cities or robots working with people in factories.
Yeah.
Even robots that can help people in their homes, like assistive robots.
So Safe Swarm isn't just some cool tech demo. It's like laying the groundwork for a future where robots are all around us, working with us without being dangerous.
Exactly. And I think it's really important to remember that this is just the beginning. Like, there's still a ton of work to do before we see swarms of drones flying all over our cities.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But it's exciting to see the progress that's being made. This research is giving us a glimpse into a future where robots can actually work together with us safely and effectively. All right, so we've gone pretty deep on the technical side of Safe Swarm.
Yeah.
We've talked about like where this tech could be used in the real world. But you know what? Now it's time for the fun part.
Okay, I like fun. What are we thinking?
What if we took these ideas in Safe Swarm even further, like a little thought experiment?
I'm game.
So we were talking about Safe Swarm, reacting to obstacles and avoiding them and all that. But what if instead of just reacting, it could actually anticipate or even influence how crowds move?
Interesting.
Like right now it's gathering all this data on how dense the crowd is, where people are moving, their trajectories, all that. So what if we fed all that data into some kind of model, a really smart one, that could not only predict where people are going to go, but also figure out where those bottlenecks are going to happen, or where the crowd flow could be smoother, more efficient.
So we're talking about going beyond just avoiding people, but actually kind of managing the crowd, right?
Yeah, exactly. Instead of just reacting to what's happening, the drones would actually be shaping the flow of the crowd.
It's kind of like a shepherd with their sheep. But instead of sheep, it's a swarm of drones and a crowd of people.
Right. Exactly.
Oh.
Think about a big concert, when everybody's trying to leave at the same time. These drones could help people get out safely and quickly, prevent those crazy bottlenecks or stampedes.
Yeah, or in a busy city square, They could help with pedestrian traffic, reduce congestion, make things safer for everybody.
Right, totally.
It'd be like a dance, almost. Like the drones are conducting the crowd, making sure everyone moves smoothly and efficiently.
I like that, a symphony of movement.
Huh?
But of course, to make something like this work, we'd need to really understand how people act in crowds, their psychology.
Oh, for sure. You'd need models that could accurately predict how people are going to react to different cues, different influences.
Right, if a drone moved a certain way, would people move out of the way? Would they even notice?
Exactly. It's a really hard problem, but there's a lot of research going on in crowd dynamics, We're getting better at simulating how crowds behave, predicting what they're going to do next.
So you're saying we could take Safe Swarm, combine it with all this new research on crowds, and actually build a system that not only navigates crowds safely, but makes them move better too.
Yeah, I think it's possible.
That's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
It is, for sure. But, anytime you're talking about a system that can influence how people behave, you got to think about the ethics, right? People need to know that this is happening, and they should be able to opt out if they don't want to participate.
Absolutely, yeah. Transparency and consent are key here. You can't just be messing with people's behavior without them knowing about it.
Right, exactly. But, if we do this carefully, if we get the ethics right, the potential benefits are huge.
Yeah, no doubt. Safer events, smoother traffic flow, less chaos and confusion. It's a pretty compelling vision of the future.
Yeah, it really is.
And it all starts with research like Safe Swarm, pushing the limits of what's possible with AI and robotics.
Yeah. Safe Swarm shows us that we can build smart systems that can adapt, learn from their environment and still be safe around people.
Well, this has been a really fascinating look into the world of safe and intelligent drone swarms, I'm really excited to see where this research goes next and what other crazy ideas it leads to.
Me too. It's been a great deep dive.
And to our listeners, if you want to learn more about Safe Swarm, check out the full paper. We've got a link in the show notes. And hey, maybe you'll come up with your own novel notion that'll shape the future of this whole field. Until next time, keep exploring and keep learning.
See ya!